Indian Hindus and Christians are angling for their nation's souls in a series of mass conversions. But 1998 saw 120 attacks on Christians by militant Hindu mobs. Could religious division lead to this vast nation's partition? These are Christians dancing at the Karam festival in Maheshpur. Christianity arrived in India nearly 2,000 years ago, with a heavy influx of missionaries from the 16th century onwards. They came to combat famine and poverty, as well as to save souls. They found willing converts amongst the rural poor, often tribals and lower caste Hindus, whose faith was once of little consequence to those in power. But there are 70 million tribals in India, and Hindu fundamentalist groups are desperate to reclaim them as their own. India's rural regions are a hotbed of division. Here, the lower castes are increasingly trying to assert their rights. The central state of Madhya Pradesh has a large, partly Christian, tribal community. In a remote village, a deadly saga began as a Christian was said to have damaged a small Hindu shrine.
I fell on the ground. As they picked me up, I heard them shout, "Let's behead him and offer him in sacrifice to the temple." They tried to lift me, but did not succeed. Thinking they'd take pity on me, I then said, "Water." But they replied, "Swine, you're asking for water after damaging our shrine?" I said I'd done nothing, seen nothing, I hadn't even been there. I continued asking for water as two people forced open my mouth and urinated.
The militant Hindu mob set fire to the house. It's a common punishment. 30 churches were burnt down in the first month of 1999. His sister describes how the horde surrounded the house and then called for their brother John to come outside. He had little choice but to obey, but he was not to escape alive.
As soon as he opened the door, he was hit over the head with an axe.
Prakash was watching all of this and getting very scared, so he went and hid inside very quietly.
Then I got out through the back by the mango tree, at which point a child saw me and said, "There's someone running away," and they started chasing me.
They started beating him out on the road, and he kept falling to the ground. Because he thought he was going to be killed, he kept rolling on his back, which took the blows.
When they bought the land, there was no Hindu shrine, their father explains, and there was never any proof that his son had damaged it.
I had 6 wounds on my head, one over here, the rest at the back. My head was in shreds. They had to stitch it together like a cloth bag.
Then they drove him slowly to the hospital in Tapkara. When he got to the hospital, he saw John's body lying on the floor. It was then that Prakash realized that John was dead.
Muslims were once the target of Hindus. This mosque in Ayodhya was razed in 1992 by Hindu extremists. The BJP government's well-known communal movement against Muslims had helped catapult it to power. But now, the worst Hindu-Muslim riots since independence erupted across the country. Militant Hindu groups were temporarily banned, but when the smoke cleared, more than 3,000 were dead. One banned group was the VHP, or World Hindu Council, an organisation allied to the BJP government. Since the destruction of the Ioda Mosque, Christians have become their target.
These Christian and Muslim missionaries are working through tens of thousands of institutions, receiving billions of rupees from abroad.
The VHP is known for its inflammatory anti-Christian rhetoric, focusing on missionaries. Missionaries are the new enemy, standing in the way of a united Hindustan.
These are the people who are promoting terrorism within our country. The terrorists go off to Pakistan, to Bangladesh, sometimes under the name of JKLF. All these people are trained by them. It's the work of the missionaries from within the country. These people are setting our nation on fire. They're criminals.
But Christian converts assert that the missionary network is far from being a call to arms. Rather, it can lift them out of poverty and illiteracy. Much to Hindu dismay, access to education and aid is easier if one becomes a Christian.
Those Orions who converted to Christianity, they are the Orions who are holding good posts, and those who did not convert to Christianity are still living like cattle. What I say is only the truth. You can see it in any corner of India, in any corner of Sarguja, or any corner of this area. Those who have not converted to Christianity are lying around like cows and buffaloes, even now.
Graffiti calls for missionaries to leave India. One of the driving forces behind the anti-missionary campaign is Swami Amarand, the vocal ideologue of another Hindu group, the VKA. Like many Hindus, he says missionaries bribe tribals into converting to Christianity.
The tribals were allured, misguided and made Christians. These people did not change of their own free will. Their thinking is low, and they have no shrewdness for the outside world. Their naivety allows others to take advantage of them.
The VKA works closely with Dilip Singh Judef, a politician in the BJP government, who holds mass Garba Parsi, or homecoming ceremonies. Here, tribals are reunited with their Hindu roots. Judef is the hereditary royal guardian of the Korwa tribals. At his homecoming ceremonies, he walks surrounded by thousands of Korwas. In a mighty show of strength, they carry bows and arrows which have been dipped in poison.
The Ghavapasi program today is being organized because we will not see Hindus become a minority in this area. We will not allow it. We will not allow it. Today in Raigarh district, 350,000 have been converted to Christianity. 350,000? Was everybody asleep?
Once the conversion movement took up, its basic message for the tribals was one of liberation. Liberation from feudal exploitation. And this liberation message, I think, had a tremendous response in the tribals, and so they went for it, and they went in a mass movement. It was not individual, the whole village, the whole community.
Despite the tribals' embrace of Christianity, India remains over 80% Hindu. What Judef and his followers are striving to avoid is the emergence of separatist movements, as in Nagaland in the east. Such movements demand secession from India, weakening the global Hindu position.
Our Christian brothers have 46 countries. Our Muslim brothers have 47 countries. There is only one solitary Hindustan, and although it's secular, Hindus are still in a majority. Only one country left.
Homecoming is also an act of political faith. The controversial ceremony focuses on heavily Christian areas like Madhya Pradesh. The conversion drives target India's poorest, many of whom may indeed have enjoyed privileges as Christians that they never would have attained as Hindus. But this irony is addressed by the rituals of the homecoming ceremony. With water from the holy Ganges, Judith washes converts' feet. He does this to ask forgiveness for the neglect his forefathers have shown the lower castes, and to symbolize bringing them back to Hinduism. But Judith also happens to be the former Raja, or king, of Jashpur, and this is a lowly task for a man who was once a king.
If he has genuine affection, if he is motivated by affection, then we wish him well. Whether he is bestowing great love on the tribals and accepting them, I don't know. If his forefathers had done this earlier, the tribal's condition would be somewhat different.
For thousands of years, the Hindu caste system was like apartheid. Taboos are disappearing, but a feudal system remains. The untouchables are serfs, and the upper castes landlords.
Feudalism has come to an end, completely. And royalty, a lot of royal families have gone into politics. There are different reasons for that happening, like wanting to develop one's area. Feudalism is not possible. Feudalism cannot be revived, and it should not be.
Judith claims that feudalism is at an end, but many see him as typical of an elite clinging to power.
Every royal family is dabbling in politics. It cannot be denied, and they want to exert their influence, and will keep on doing so until someone pushes them out. Because the Adivasis and other backward peoples are advancing and being educated, progressing and demanding their rights. It concerns the royals and the Rajas that they may have to accept this someday.
Travelling to Operation Homecoming today is newspaper correspondent Ramesh Sharma. He wants to gauge the depth of feeling tribals have for coming home to Hinduism, since Judith's grip on the region is powerful. Ramesh and his colleagues question several people at the rally, but find even new converts are reticent.
Apart from you, is there anyone else participating?
No, there is no one else.
What about after this?
I do not understand.
Will you make an effort to influence others to join your new faith? Will you persuade others to change to the religion that you've adopted today?
Yes.
Sushila Turkey, she converted to Hinduism along with her family.
Sushila's family is a prominent one and a good trophy for Operation Homecoming. He asks the tribals if the Christian mission approached them to join their faith. They claim the missionaries persuaded them, but they were reluctant from the start.
They told me of the benefits if I left my faith, so I went to receive some grain. Did they give you any? Yes, they did. Did they tell you that you'd receive more if you joined them? Yes, they said that I'd get land, plows. That's what they said. We relied on their word, but they didn't keep it, nor did they give us anything, so we left. Only those people return who are outside the purview of missionary activities, like the Kauras and Pandos, who have seen the Orions benefit and started visiting the missions. But when they do not gain materially, then they return home.
But it is tribals who embrace Christianity in spirit who threaten the Hindu nation. Missionaries in India worked today at their peril. In January 1999, an Australian missionary was burnt to death with his family by a Hindu mob. They also face harassment for an old legal bill and can be imprisoned for spreading the word of God.
Spread the word of love and do good amongst all. Do away with evil, the fights, the differences, the hatred and the injustice and oppression. The Madhya Pradesh Religious Freedom Act was passed in 1968, and this bill says that no person can force another individual to change his religion through allurement, and if he does so, then he can be prosecuted.
The Religious Freedom Act has been revived by Hindu groups who want to prove that missionaries conduct forced conversions.
The Christians have admitted that by using allurement, financial reward, terror, threats, and even force, Hindu tribals are being converted to Christianity. By collecting snippets of information from here and there, they have tried to establish that the activities of the missionaries were anti-national and that it was not in the national interest for missionaries to remain in this country. This is what they wanted to prove.
Tribals have become puppets in a piece of theatre, and missionaries who encourage them to convert have been convicted under the Religious Freedom Act. Louis Berger has spent a lifetime in India building missions. He was arrested for failing to inform the authorities of the conversion of 94 tribals in Maheshpur in 1988.
I was arrested because there was a contravention of this Madhya Pradesh Act, which says that when you preside over a conversion, you must inform the collector when somebody converts. Our point of view is that we do not convert. We do not convert anybody. People convert themselves.
The system of the missionaries is such that they entice people with allurement, and once they become dependent, they pressurize them into becoming Christians. After they do this, they prey on them.
How can you bring anyone like that? Take him by the throat and then make him a Christian? Impossible. Impossible.
Impossible, maybe. But in 1996, the Religious Freedom Act was used to sentence the 88-year-old missionary to 6 months' rigorous imprisonment. Taking up the mantle of missionaries is Sylvanus Lacter. He's an Adivasi tribal, but his family became Christians and that opened the door to education. Today, he's a lawyer and has fought and won over 40 cases on behalf of missionaries being tried for converting Hindus to Christianity.
With this bill, there's been a violation of fundamental rights. It's the right of any individual to make up his or her own mind in regards to which religion to adopt, and this right is being deprived. Let them preach and propagate, but no conversion. If they convert people, there can be no friendship between us.
Lacter's drive to defend missionaries and their conversions stems from personal experience of being an outcast Hindu.
Hindu people used to refer to my forefathers as lepers, possibly because they were dark-skinned. My forefathers were treated worse than animals.
As tribals are herded back to the Hindu fold, many feel that their best interests are not at heart. Eki Vidri is a nun of the Ursuline order and a foot soldier of the Christian cause. Travelling around rural areas, she finds tribals locked in poverty and apathy. Here, in the village of Mashpur, she and Louis Berger conducted a mass conversion. She too was arrested and sentenced to 6 months rigorous imprisonment.
I observed that in this village there was the vice of alcoholism. Nobody went to school, even parents were busy drinking, and in the village the farming techniques were primitive. This is how I began coming to the village, and they became very happy.
Her sittings grew into public meetings. She taught agriculture and preached self-improvement. Missionaries consider this their spiritual duty, and these villagers think she's a godsend.
The Christian sisters and priests treat our children like their own. They put in so much effort to educate them. Also, if we get sick or fall ill, we get a lot of good facilities and medicines from the dispensary.
They will not easily come to listen only to some abstract ideas about religion. You must talk about their needs, about their material needs just as well as their spiritual needs.
I feel that the main reason for my arrest was that my going from village to village for the uplift of the masses could not be tolerated by people, and they arrested me because they were jealous of the way people behaved towards me.
Take, for example, the medical facilities they provide and the educational facilities that they provide. They take their pound of flesh. They destroy the customs and rituals of the forefathers. They destroy their heritage and culture.
Judith has challenged the missionaries. He once proclaimed that for every choti or Hindu sacred band unclipped, he would clip a missionary's throat. But whilst Judith's Operation Homecoming emphasises tribal culture, it puts scant emphasis on development.
Judith benefits from it, but there's no benefit for the Adivasis. What benefit do they get from being a throng of people? They take their bows and arrows and walk with them for one day and get something to eat in return. Judith should do work for the Adivasis, just like the missions are doing.
Thanks largely to the number of foreign missions, and despite their minority status, India's Christians are seen as leaders in healthcare and education. It's estimated that 1/3 of India's nurses are Christian.
That is, I think, a good contribution of Christianity. With its new education, with its new teaching, people are proud of themselves in a right sense. And therefore, some people accuse Christianity of destroying the identity of tribals. I don't agree with that.
I accept that development has not happened, but we are trying to give people here a happy and contented life. Our efforts are behind it. This is our Ganges, our holy cow. These are our countrymen. India is our country. We sing Indian songs. We see Ayodhya before our eyes. We feel India is our own.
Tribals receive a lesson in a Hindu school run by the VKA. Here they learn that the caste system is the glue of Indian society.
There is a positive aspect to the caste system, and without a caste system, nobody can function. Churches collect money. They have their own system. They have created a category which they have labelled underdeveloped, and India sometimes falls into it. So they send money on the basis that this is an underdeveloped country. The motive is to give to tribal societies labels like indigenous and separate them from mainstream Indian society. That's their motive.
The VKA, like other Hindu organisations, teaches its cadres to defend Hindustan against its enemies. And these are the enemies of all Hindu nationalists, armed insurgents from the Assam Liberation Movement, or ALPHA, in northeast India. This state has a large Muslim population and is demanding secession. Neighbouring Nagaland, also at war, is predominantly Christian. The lesson taught by the VKA and other Hindu groups is that all non-Hindus are a threat to India's sovereignty.
We know our limitations. We're a revolutionary group. In military terms, we're in a much weaker position than the Indian army. But whatever they or the government thinks, it's well known in international circles that revolutionaries are always ready to die. The day the military and the police pull out of Nagaland and Mizoram, God forbid such a day comes. But if they do, those places will break away from India.
But few of India's Christians have secession in their agenda, and so the devout have become martyrs.
Blessed are those who are persecuted in the name of righteousness, because theirs is the kingdom of God. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. We've put up photos of Hindu gods, but we're followers of Christianity.
In Mahashpur, Christians have been ordered to put up pictures of Hindu gods. Fearful yet God-fearing, they do it as a pretense.
I used to live in the village of Mohanpur, where there were 3 Sardars wielding pistols. They demanded to know how many families in Mahashpur had converted to Christianity. They said, we're going to beat them up. I heard that while I was still there.
Now, Christians also claim they're being denied access to government programs designed to help the poor develop. And Christian villages, they say, are being cut off from the basic necessities of life.
For example, there's a village beyond Jashpur called Ambakona, where until now, electricity has not been made available. There's a feeling that because they're a Christian village, the power lines have been routed through another village. These are the sorts of grievances we hear.
Wherever there are Hindus in a village, you will find electricity. But there is no electricity for our Adivasi brothers. Where there are Hindu brothers, they have a water supply. But the Adivasis have no arrangement for water.
Judev and other powerful fundamentalists seem intent on wiping out a religion that has existed in India for more than 2,000 years. Is Hindu revivalism the toil of the devout, or a chauvinist creed to maintain a Hindu society based on hierarchy and submission?
Dilip Singh Judev of Jashpur has detested Christians for many years. He had a hand in my brother's death. Later, we heard he'd said, why did you just kill one person? You should have killed 10 or wiped out the entire village. If anyone destroys our shrine, and the devotees of Shiva request the authorities to take necessary action, and the person who committed the act goes around beating his chest saying nothing's happened, then the mob mentality comes into play, and you cannot stop them.
And the BJP government has said little to stop the mob mentality. Most of the culprits of anti-Christian attacks go scot-free. Prime Minister Vajpayee has played into the fundamentalists' hands by calling for a national debate on the issue of conversion alone.
Dilip Singh Judev's agents are there, in our village. The BJP people came to my village of Mahashpur and threatened me. They demanded to know why I was following Christianity. They said, "We'll burn your house and your family with it. We'll finish you. Better leave the Christian faith or we'll throw you out of India." If not here, then he'll do it somewhere else. Dilip Singh Judev will get the job done. He's well known as a member of parliament. The BKA is only a front. In reality, he is a demon.
India's missionaries must face their demons. Perhaps they're doing the work that should fall to the government, but they must know that the government itself belongs to a social movement whose cultural offshoots are sometimes fanatical and who see India's future as dependent on caste and creed.
Let's behead him and offer him in sacrifice at the temple. They tried to lift me, but did not succeed. Thinking they'd take pity on me, I then said, "Water." But they replied, "Swine, you're asking for water after damaging our shrine?" I said I'd done nothing, seen nothing, I hadn't even been there. I continued asking for water as two people forced open my mouth and urinated.
The militant Hindu mob set fire to the house. It's a common punishment. 30 churches were burnt down in the first month of 1999. His sister describes how the horde surrounded the house and then called for their brother John to come outside. He had little choice but to obey, but he was not to escape alive.
As soon as he opened the door, he was hit over the head with an axe.
Prakash was watching all of this and getting very scared, so he went and hid inside very quietly.
Then I got out through the back by the mango tree, at which point a child saw me and said, "There's someone running away," and they started chasing me.
They started.
Indian Hindus and Christians are angling for their nation's souls in a series of mass conversions. But 1998 saw 120 attacks on Christians by militant Hindu mobs. Could religious division lead to this vast nation's partition? But there are 70 million tribals in India, and Hindu fundamentalist groups are desperate to reclaim them as their own. India's rural regions are a hotbed of division. Here, the lower castes are increasingly trying to assert their rights. The central state of Madhya Pradesh has a large, partly Christian, tribal community. In a remote village, a deadly saga began as a Christian was said to have damaged a small Hindu shrine.
I fell on the ground. As they picked me up, I heard them shout.
These are Christians dancing at the Karam festival in Maheshpur. Christianity arrived in India nearly 2,000 years ago, with a heavy influx of missionaries from the 16th century onwards. They came to combat famine and poverty, as well as to save souls. They found willing converts amongst the rural poor, often tribals and lower caste Hindus, whose faith was once of little consequence to those in power.